So most TVs today have a very thin form factor to them, and in order for them to stay so thin, they're either using very small built-in speakers, and if you were to buy a more premium model, then some of them are even using the screen itself as a speaker. Now, if you were to get a more premium TV, like today's TV, which we are using the 2023 Sony Bravia X90L, your built-in speakers do sound fairly decent. But if you were to get a more affordable TV, then your TV's built-in speakers are either going to sound very tinny, they're not going to get all that loud, or the bass is really going to get distorted when the bass really gets going. So that's why you're definitely going to want to consider getting a soundbar with your new TV. Now, there are two types of soundbars. There are soundbars that come included with an external subwoofer, and you have to use them with the external subwoofer. Or there are also soundbars that are fully self-contained systems, as in they create their own bass. Now, obviously, fully self-contained systems aren't going to create as much bass as, let's say, a soundbar that has an external subwoofer, which are literally going to rattle the walls in your house. But the bass that comes out of a fully self-contained system is going to be enough for you to feel satiated when you're watching something, because you're going to be able to feel what's happening on the screen. But with the self-contained systems from Bose, Sony, or Sonos, you have different soundbars to choose from, and you can always build them out with external subwoofers and or rear satellite speakers. And again, you can always have different models of subwoofers and satellite speakers to choose from. So you can build out your own home theater setup depending on your budget and needs. But also, one way that TV manufacturers like Sony, Samsung, or LG try to get you to buy their soundbar when you buy their TV is by using features like Acoustic Center Sync, which is found on Sony, or Q Symphony, which is found on Samsung, where if you have a soundbar and TV from the same manufacturer, then your TV's built-in speakers will work in conjunction with your soundbar, thus giving you a stronger center channel. But again, these types of features usually only work if you have a TV and soundbar from the same brand. But today we're going to see the performance difference between using your TV's built-in speakers versus a soundbar versus a fully built-out soundbar. And for today, we're going to be using the 2023 Sony Bravia X90L TV. For our soundbar, we're going to be using the Sony HTA5000. And for our subwoofer, we're going to be using the SW3 subwoofer. And for our rear satellite speakers, we're going to be using the Sony RS3Ss. Now, in this test, the TV is going to be playing at max volume, whereas the soundbar and the fully built-out home theater system are going to be playing at 75% volume.
I don't mind a little rain from my suit. A little bit of anger makes you cute. And we've been watching this show so long, but it feels like everything that we wrote went back into the bed we used. Won't take long, even when I'm without you and without you, babe. So listen up and play along. And that's how time flies, like we're in a different time. Sweet is something our favorite song, and it feels like every time that it comes on, we just roll on to the taste of it and the lights gone, and it won't take long, even when I'm without you and I'm without you, babe. Listen up and play along, and that's how time flies, like we're on a different time, like tell me what to hear and feel and don't forget, can feel it covering us open like a wave. Hold on, I can feel it covering us open like a wave.
So obviously, like you may have just heard, a soundbar is going to sound better than your TV's built-in speakers. Your TV most likely just has a pair of downward firing speakers that bounce sound off of the table if it isn't wall mounted like mine is. They don't get all that loud and the bass can get distorted when the bass really gets going. Now, the sound that comes out of the Sony Bravia X90L TV is decent and these speakers do get decently loud, so it's easy to hear and understand dialogue, and thankfully the bass doesn't get too distorted at higher volumes. However, if you were to get a more affordable TV, then your TV's built-in speakers are going to sound considerably more tinny and the bass is going to rattle a lot more, especially when the bass really gets going. Now, when you use a soundbar, in this case we're using the A5000, you're going to get a lot more volume, you're going to get a lot more instrument separation, and not only is your bass going to not distort anymore, you're also going to get more of it. Now, don't expect the bass coming out of the A5000 to rattle any walls, but with the bass that's coming out of a soundbar, you are going to be able to at least feel what's happening on the screen, and in general, Sony's soundbars do have an above average amount of bass to them for a soundbar. But also, in this case, we are using a Sony TV with a Sony soundbar, and both of these products do have support for Sony's acoustic center sync, meaning that the built-in speakers in the TV were playing in conjunction with the soundbar itself, thus giving us a stronger center channel and also a slight max volume performance boost. Just keep in mind, all of Sony's TVs and soundbars don't have support for acoustic center sync. A good example of this is the new Sony S2000 soundbar, which unfortunately does not have support for acoustic center sync. But then, if you were to add the external subwoofer into the system, you are going to get a very big performance boost in the bass, because the bass in this system will now actually rattle the walls in your house. And if you were to add the rear satellite speakers, you are going to get a much more open sounding listening experience as well. And you're also going to get a max volume performance boost. Just keep in mind that with Sony's system, if you were to add a subwoofer into the mix, the built-in subwoofer in your Sony soundbar will be deactivated because all of the bass will be handled by the external subwoofer. But also, with both the external subwoofer and the rear satellite speakers, these things are wireless. The only thing that you have to worry about is wiring them up to power, but you can place these speakers wherever you'd like. But with all that being said, if you are buying a TV today, I do feel that you should definitely consider buying a soundbar, because the built-in speakers in TVs today are really only good for actually listening to dialogue with, but they're not the best to actually enjoy a film with. Now, if you are buying a TV that has a feature where your TV's built-in speakers will work in conjunction with your soundbar, like Sony, LG, or Samsung, then you are better off buying a soundbar from the same manufacturer that supports this system. However, if your TV does not have this type of feature, then you are free to mix and match and maybe even look at soundbars from different manufacturers. Now, using a soundbar by itself, you are going to get better detail, more bass, and a higher max volume. But if you were to add the external subwoofer and or rear satellite speakers, you are going to get a much more immersive viewing experience. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something if I'm really proud of it.